Hey everyone, welcome to You Hate to See It. I'm Adam.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Nick.
And
Helps make more than 8 cents a day.
this week we are joined by Larry Hankin. He was on our podcast a few years ago, and he's graciously accepted our invitation to come back.
I've also been told that he was on Home Alone at one point.
He was on Home Alone. He was on, he's in Annie.
He's also in Breaking Bad.
Yes. Nick's not going to be
Has
here.
book.
Nope.
He has multiple books.
Books go burr.
And Nick refused, because Nick hates people.
Were you there for the first Larry Hankin recording either?
I was, but I was at
Not
Shannon's.
Like there. Okay.
So I was recording on a shitty Wi-Fi connection with shitty headphones.
Is that the one that you left halfway through and we couldn't get you back?
Maybe.
No, doesn't
But yeah,
matter.
I was gonna say this is an intro and outro. Why the fuck are we
Make sure
discussing
you check that out. Check it out.
this? Here's the episode.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast, Larry. It's great to have you back. It's been like 3.5 years since you were last on, so
I guess, but a lot has happened or unhappened in
Yeah.
3 years. Yeah, it's all different, man.
yeah. So last time you told us that you've had your life threatened 3 times, and that was only part of your showbiz story. Since then, have you survived any new adventures worthy of a sequel?
Well, let me see. Over 3. No, I don't. There's been so many life-threatening things happen to. I don't remember. Do you remember what the life-threatening thing was 3 years ago? That's like a lifetime to me.
Yeah, we didn't. You mentioned that right towards the end, and we made notes that we need to start asking you about life-threatening details of your life. So,
let me see. 3 years ago would be so it's 25 now, near 26, so that would be about 23. Life-threatening thing. I don't know. I mean, because of the profession that has chosen me, I didn't choose acting. Believe me. I mean, I just slipped into it because of friends and connections, and I don't like to do anything. There's a problem right there. So I don't stay in jobs very long. I mean, I've been in show business a very long time, but I switch from job to job. So at any moment, I got a frog in my throat. That's my latest threatening. I'm getting over a sore throat. So I don't recall, because I go from job to job, like a movie, a TV thing. I don't do anything for 3 months. Then I get another job. Then it's really random, which I guess I prefer, as opposed to having one job. The shortest job I ever had was 4 hours. That was interesting. But that's when I started, and I started to understand. I think this is the rhythm of my life. That's what it's going to be like. And it has been, except show business has such, a lot of things you can do in it that are totally different. Like I spent a couple of years improvising, which would seem to be like acting, but it's really not. And nobody realizes that. I don't think even improv actors realize how different improv is. Improv is you make it up, you just, I mean, there's exercises to help you, like, you got to listen. That's a rule, but that's a rule of life. Okay. So, but on stage, it's really important. In life, not so much for me. Uh, but when you go into acting, they assume you're an improviser. You know, I was with, well, Chicago, Second City. You guys know
Yeah.
Second City.
Yep.
Yeah, I was there for a while. A while. That's the whole my whole life is a while. I was there for a couple. I think six. Well, I was there for a year in what was it, Louisiana or uh, down south. I auditioned for it. I auditioned in New York for Second City in Chicago, but I auditioned in New York. But instead of sending me, so I got the audition, but instead of sending me to Chicago because I got the audition in New York, they sent me to, I think it's Louisiana or I can't remember where, what state it was. But I was there for a year and we were a big hit. And I don't know, do you know the names of people? Bernie, I don't know, Bernie, well, I don't know. They came down, Second City from Chicago, the owner of that, the director of Second City in Chicago, came down there. He flew down to see what the big deal was. I mean, we were such a big hit in down there, the five of us, that they weren't planning on that. They just sent us down there to give us practice, and then they'll ship us up to the main stage in Chicago.
Hmm.
But we had lines around the block, so he came down to see what the hell are they doing that's so funny or so, you know, successful. He came down and he picked two of us, me and Jack Burns, who later invented and wrote Hee Haw. That's, he went up. He couldn't take Second City up in Chicago, so he quit. Jack did, and went to Hollywood, to become an actor.
Yeah.
And instead, he wrote Hee Haw as a producer and a writer, and left me there. And I was there for another 6 months in Chicago. And then about five of us quit and went to San Francisco and opened a place up there. And we were successful there. So a lot of us, not including me, but a lot of the company, the five people who in San Francisco, we had lines around the block,
Hmm.
which was kind of cool. Uh, so everybody in my company, these five people who together we were funny, separately we were, you know, kind of funny, but together somehow, and the director, we we were successful. That's all I can say. So we were so successful that people from LA, the movie people, the acting people, flew up because it was on a thing. And those days it was like $15 or something to fly up from LA to Chicago to San Francisco. They flew up to see the show. It was a really cheap flight. They could get a hotel, stay overnight, and fly back, and maybe less than $100.
Hmm.
You know, if you were successful, you could do that. So they did, and they kept on hiring us to. Oh yeah, these guys, or that guy is funny, or blah blah blah. So I lost all my funny mates,
Yeah.
and even the director left, and he said, "Okay, Larry, hire five new people and you direct. Goodbye." And they all went down to LA to become successful actors. And they all pretty were,
Who's the most successful out of all of them
excuse
besides
me.
yourself? Which one of them was the most successful besides
Well,
you?
Peter, I think Peter Bonners was he was on I can't he was the funny guy on a sitcom, the recurring character. He wasn't one of the main ones, but he was there every week. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, he was the most successful. He still is. We don't get along because of that. I think he's too. Well, that's what happens. You get a lot of money, man. Money changes you. That's the only thing in life I can bet on is money changes you, whether you want to change or not. It has nothing to do. Money has nothing to do with you.
Hmm.
It just changes you. That's all. There's no way to prevent it. Uh, and you either become really nice and move away from everybody so nobody knows you're nice, um, or you become an asshole. I mean, that's the choice you have with money, with
Yeah.
becoming really rich. So I stayed up in San Francisco for a while, and then I got bored with that because the company that we started with that left Chicago and started the whole thing. When all of them finally, they didn't all go at once, but they sort of drifted down and never came back. Is
Hmm.
what happened. Hey, come down for a week and shoot a sitcom, and then you can go back. They did it once or twice, and then like the third time, he's not coming back. He got the fever.
Yeah.
And then every once in a while, somebody else would come back until finally they all left, even the director. And that happened to me too. You go, well, all my friends are gone because we lived together. When we started the committee, we all lived together in one railroad apartment. It's just like so we ate breakfast together and dinner together and hung out together, and we were like a family.
Hmm.
That's what made us successful, really. We were so in tune with one another that on stage the audience, uh, they didn't realize it, but they understood there's something going on. Those people really are cool together. And
Hmm.
when they disappeared, the new company wasn't as funny, even though each one of them was funny. They didn't melt. It's like cooking. You put a lot of stuff in, and then you get one really cool taste.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing, and they didn't merge.
Yeah.
They just. So I went down there, and I wrote a little thing about what acting is in Hollywood.
Hmm.
Getting a job. It's let me see, how is it? It's um, audition this, read this, memorize this, put this on, stand over there, say this, thank you, goodbye. That to me was acting. It was totally weird, but there was enough separation of jobs, like a month in between, or a week in between, or sometimes 2 months in between, that you forget, or because the money was kind of good, so you tend to forget. You make yourself forget that. I don't want to do this. Um, and until finally, but I started up as a stand up. I started out as a stand up comedian before I went to Chicago. I auditioned. I was a stand up. When I auditioned in New York, I was a stand up comedian. I'm starting to go back to that. There's a place called the Crow, which is kind of a nightclub, coffee house kind of thing. 100 seats and a stage. And every once in a while, I can go in if I think of something funny for about 10 minutes. They give you a hunk. They give you 10 minutes,
Hmm.
or they give me 10 minutes. Um, so every time I think of something funny that I can hold an audience for 10 minutes, I can go in and ask them if I can do a set, and they'll give me the time. They'll let me go on last. So because they don't know that I'm going to come in, I go, hey man, you gotta come in. I got something funny I want to do. I want to try it out.
Yeah.
So they let me do that, and that kind of is cool because that's where I started. Is just talking, telling stories. Uh, but you guys started out with what the threat to my life was. I don't. Nothing comes to me. I'm trying to talk and think of what along the way was a threat, except me and my big mouth and saying the wrong thing.
Well, I
Because
mean,
God,
so I mean, so you were talking about like starting out in stand up. and
Yeah.
improv and things of that nature before becoming the Larry Hankin we all know and
With
love
fans
today.
and stuff, you know,
Yeah.
that
And
kind of thing. Yeah.
and now you're doing stand up again. How
Yeah.
has how has stand up changed since then?
Whoa.
And
Wow.
which one do you prefer how stand up was back then versus how it is now? And where do you see stand up going in the future?
Um, yeah. That's a book right there.
Yeah.
Um,
Probably a
well,
series.
Yeah.
stand up is really changed because first of all, to do stand up, you need a venue, you need a stage, you need an audience. I mean, a real stage, a real place, and real people to come to one place,
Hmm.
even if it's only 100 people. I did, arena. I was doing arena shows. I was opening for the Love and Spoonful and the Blues Project and Miles Davis and Woody Allen. I was successful, so that's I guess why I got the audition. To Second City. I was a funny guy, but I ran out of stuff to write, to say on a stage in front of an audience because um, stand up is based. Well, there's two ways of doing it. One is you write funny things. You write things that are funny on a page and to say. Uh, and the other way is to tell real stories about your life, but in a funny manner. So you're more a storyteller, which you are funny to an audience, and you call that stand up.
Hmm.
But really, to stand up for me is saying funny things that you've written that have nothing to do with your life. So I was that's what I was doing, is writing funny things, ridiculous things that people laugh at. And I was good at it because I would be pulling this stuff from my life. I would say, I saw this guy and blah, blah, blah. And he said that. I could make that funny. I could describe what was going on in a funny manner. So I discovered that I was a storyteller, like I'm talking to you guys now. Just you go up there and you talk and it comes out funny. But what you're talking about is reality. It's just you see it in a funny way. And more now, that's what that is. I don't do stand up. I get up at the Crow. I get up and I tell funny stories about what just happened to me, yesterday, or like in That Guy, which it says That Guy, a cautionary memoir.
Hmm.
So what that means is this book, I wrote this for fans, for movie and television fans, because it's I some podcasters have told me I don't follow me, if you know what I mean. I don't follow me. I don't know what my rep is, or what the scuttlebutt is, but I started getting fans, and so I wrote it for them. It's my adventures doing the shows they've seen me on, that they became fans of me because I was on that television show and
Hmm.
stuff. But I've done 200. Podcasters have told me I've done 200 movie and TV shows, which is a lot. It turns out I didn't know that, but that's a lot. Because I never kept track. I mean, I was just trying to pay rent, man.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to do. And you don't know what's going to be a success. You just audition, go in, do the job, and go home, collect your money, and pay your rent. And then, 6 months later, he's like, "Hey, when you were on Seinfeld is a big hit, man. You got fans." That was like 6 months ago. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
So I wrote them, but when I started writing them just to tell fans what it was like to be an actor in Hollywood, it turned out they're funny. I didn't mean them to be funny. I mean, I
Hmm.
thought, well, they probably turned out to be humorous, but no, they're really funny. but they're real. In other words, that's what happened to me, and I just told it in a funny way. Uh, but it's a cautionary. If you, that's the key word, cautionary memoir. It's not what you think Hollywood was like. The glamour. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's the BS and the mistakes and the weird people you meet who are stars, man, but they're weird. And then you become weird. I'm weird. Here I'm weird.
I mean, I feel that I'm a second AD, and so
Yeah, yeah. Okay, you know
I'm
exactly what I'm
weird,
talking
and
about.
I know I've met some weird people, um when I met like Patrick Schwarzenegger, Arnold Schwarzenegger's
Oh,
youngest son.
oh yeah,
Um,
right.
he's super super nice. Grew up with the ultimate my dad can beat up your dad,
Yeah,
but like just a weird has some weird traits. And having at the time when I worked with him, I was a PA, and I was this is this was probably the most famous person I'd ever worked with at that point, and I was like, this is a weird guy. Are all actors like this? Yes, yes, they are.
yeah, yeah, man.
Unless they're brand new to the industry, yes, they
Huh?
are all weird.
Well, the only people weirder than that is the people who hire the actors.
Hmm.
Those people are really weird, like Larry David. That's what I really, I tell stories about Larry David when I was on Seinfeld. Uh, my meeting with him or his direction of me or how he acted on the set was more what I talked about, not about meeting Larry David and he's a big star, but Larry David and how funny he is and he doesn't know it.
Hmm.
That kind of weirdness, and and they all are weirder than the actors that the more famous you are, the weirder you get.
Hmm.
So if you're very famous, you're more weird than the actors who
Well,
you're acting with who are not as famous as you are. They're also not as weird as you are.
well, that's good. The more money you get as an actor, the more things you can just be like, oh, I just want to buy this thing and do this
Yeah.
thing that I'm just gonna try it out and do this. And I'm like,
Okay.
that's
Here's a great story that explains it really well, and it wasn't me who tells it. It's what is that? There's 6 degrees
Six
of
Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
yeah, Kevin Bacon. So Kevin Bacon tells a story, and man, I just repeat it. It is so right on. He said, he's very famous. He's very famous. Okay, so he got tired of being famous. This is about 3 or 4 years ago. And he said, what is it like to be a normal person? Because when you're that famous, you really can't walk down the street.
Hmm.
I mean, you're just bothered all the time about, oh, hey, can I have your autograph or something like that? But happened once or twice, that's fine. You kind of appreciate it. Oh, people see me, they like me. But when you're Kevin Bacon or of that magnitude, you can't walk down the street. You just can't. You'll just, be accosted. You may be even kidnapped. I mean, you're a target. That's
Hmm.
what you are. I mean, yeah, I get it a little, but I'm that guy. They don't know. They go, hey,
You
oh,
have
you're
that you have the
right.
face
They don't
that
need to.
everyone recognizes, but they don't know from where.
Yeah, they don't know my name. So I'm kind of cool, and it's mainly kids who recognize me before their parents. Parents, but by the time you're a parent, man, you're just like numb to the world. But
Well,
kids,
th-
they're
parents have
oh
seen you in a
hey,
lot of things. Kids have like probably only seen you in Friends or maybe just Breaking Bad. Like you're a little bit
well,
more.
no, kids. When I say that, I've been in 200 TV shows and or movies. No, kids see me in all of those. They watch television,
Hmm.
kids. So no, that's why I'm famous with kids because they have over a series of about 3 or 4 months of them watching television, they'll see about 40 of my appearances, all
Okay.
different. And they'll recognize me in each one. So when I'm walking down the street, there's a family of, say, two parents and two kids, different ages. The kids will go, "Hey, there's that guy," and they'll come running over and they drag their parents over. And then the parents have to stand there and while I talk to their kids. And then they go, "Oh, I recognize you from Seinfeld," or whatever it was. Yeah, so Kevin Bacon didn't like that because he's done by people and he can't do that. So he went to a makeup artist, he knows a lot of them. And he says, "I want you to make me up so I don't look like Kevin Bacon, so I can walk around on the street." He said, "What I want to do is I just want to walk around for a day and be a normal person and not be bothered by it all. So they don't recognize me. That's all I want. I'll just do it for a day just to see what it's like." Because he grew up becoming a star. So he's lost all memory of normalcy, just going shopping or going to a supermarket. So that's what they did, and he wore different clothes and he had makeup on and blah, blah, blah. And he said, and it worked, he was walking, he said, okay, on the day came when he just stepped out the door, his Malibu home, and he just went downtown to Los Angeles, or he came to Venice Beach, and he walked around on the beach and nobody recognized him. And then the next day, a newspaper or something, or a magazine, found out about that, hey, Kevin Bacon disguised himself for a day. So they interviewed him the next day, or I guess they spoke to him before he did it and said, "Can we talk to you about it after you do it, just to see it?" So they interviewed him the next day. And basically what he said was, "Man, it sucked. Nobody knew who I was. What the hell?" That's, and he says, "Never again, man. I like being liked." So yeah, so that's kind of weird, but I understand it completely,
I slightly relate to it as
Well,
not from
yeah,
being
because I
recognized,
understand it.
but things like so I have a 19-month-old son and I was like, God, I miss sleep. Like I miss being able to sleep through the night. And so last night, my in-laws said that they would like just he could spend the nights at their house for the night. My wife and I have been having hard times sleeping, so like get some sleep for the night. Think I sat awake half the night stressing because I missed my baby. And I'm like, I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
why is he not crying? Why is he not waking me up? Like, I want that now. Like, so
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I totally understand it. Yes, sometimes I miss my family. They're either all gone or moved to other states, but I'm the only one on the West Coast. So I miss my sister. Yeah, I get that. So, um, and right now I kind of dropped out of acting. So I just every once in a while now. Oh, there's the thing called Comic Cons now. So
Hmm.
that's what I do.
Mm.
So Comic Cons happen, once a month, maybe twice a month, but it's money, because fans pay to get your autograph, which I don't understand at all. I mean, people pay good money that they earn and work hard to earn to get me to sign a picture of myself. Well, I don't understand fans in
I
that respect. I understand that they like watching television or they like watching that particular show I was on, or even that they liked the character that I played. I understand that. But to actually go to a Comic Con thing and pay money to get me to sign a picture of myself, I don't, I really don't understand. Because look, I'm a fan of people, of human beings, but I'm a fan of, like Leonardo da Vinci,
mhm.
Picasso. I don't run around trying to get their autograph. Nor would I if I knew they were alive and living down the block, except maybe Picasso, because I know I could get probably like $1,000
Yeah.
just for his signature. But so there was but then there would be a specific reason that I wanted Picasso's signature. I could sell it for a lot of bucks.
Yeah.
No, you can't sell my autograph. If you pay me $40 or $30 or $20 to sign an autograph, you can't sell it to somebody for $20. Hey, you want to buy a Larry Hankin signature for? I'll give it to you for 15. Get out of here. What are you talking
I uh I also I don't get the signing of photos of yourself and stuff. I have some signatures, but they're like I've met Mark Ruffalo and had him sign a Hulk comic book. Like I feel like that's a
Well,
little
hey,
bit
one or two are
more.
fine, but you don't. No, look, what I'm talking about is dyed in the wool fans. They walk around at Comic Cons with fanny packs of $20 bills that are the pack is that thick, and they just walk around, and they come up and they go, "Oh yeah, give me one of those," and yeah, my cousin would like one of these, and so and they go, and that's $100 right there. I just
Mhm.
made $100 from this guy, and or they asked me to sign something of theirs, and then they have like there's plastic statues of me,
Oh yeah, Funko
the same
Pops and stuff.
boxes, you
Yeah.
know. So when they come with the boxes or boxes of raisins that I sign, the autograph, they buy boxes of raisins and they come to this Comic Con and I appreciate it. I'm very friendly to them. I tell them stories about show business. I like to talk to people, but I don't get the the impetus of going to a grocery store and saying, give me 3 boxes of raisins. You really like raisins that much? No, I never meet. I don't ever eat them. I just throw them out. No, Larry Hankin is going to be at a Comic Con. I want him to sign these. What? You don't like raisins at all? No, no. Sometimes I don't even pour them out. I just ask him to sign the box. Boxes of raisins. I said, and you're going to put them up on the show? Yeah, yeah, we have them up on. Well, it's so that's kind of like because I could. Here's the key to the whole thing. I mean, I guess where I'm coming from is I'm not an actor, nor ever did I dream of being an actor or even a funny guy. I came from what is it called? A family, disjointed family.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, it wasn't a good home life. I had not a good. I didn't get along with my father at all. From the age of 15 on, I wanted to just run away. That's all I thought about. What? Someday I'll grow up. I'll run away. And I even yeah. So uh, I was totally bereft of any kind of dreams of the future of me. I just lived day by day. That was like kind of it. And I went to college because my family, again, against my wishes, against my better judgment, they forced me to go to college.
Hmm.
I don't want to go to college. Yeah, well, what are you going to do with your life? See, that was a loaded question. That wasn't the question. It was, what are you going to do about supporting us in our old age? That
Hmm.
was why they wanted me to go to college. So I said, I want to be an artist. That's what I wanted to be. See, I'm a painter. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
that's what I wanted to do. I mean, ever since I was a small little kid, I would draw, and I like to read. And the only books in my house when I was growing up as a kid was my family. They were all for facade, how the house looked if they had pardon me, guests. So they bought sets of books, like the entire Encyclopedia Britannica set.
Hmm.
And they never checked it. They never read it. They
It
just
was
had it, and it
it
was
was
in.
the computer of the age. You had to have it in case you
Yeah, yeah.
needed it. but no one
Exactly.
ever needed it because half the time humans make
So
shit up.
right. So
And
I read that. That's what I read. I like to read. So I read Encyclopedia Britannicus. I would look up words. I would look up, and it was kind of filled my time because the house was boring. And then they bought sets of classic books, famous books of history. Like Don Quixote
Mhm.
and The Wizard of Oz and all those things. Not modern books, not Hemingway or Kerouac or things like that. No, the old classics. Okay, fine. Uh, which I read, but I didn't read the whole book. I
Yeah.
would read pages of stuff. I just read. Wasn't. I wasn't. So I had nothing to dream about. Like I want to be a writer. No, I mean, all I had was a page here and a page there. A couple of things in an encyclopedia. But then, so when I went to college and I wanted to be an artist, they wanted me to have a career like a doctor or a lawyer. That was the aim, doctor or a lawyer. So I saw at Syracuse University, they had a thing called industrial design as a profession, as a department. And I just glommed on to the word design. To me, that meant art.
Hmm.
Not so,
Yeah.
not at all. But I didn't realize that until I got to Syracuse and checked into the industrial design department. And it was all math and calculus and holy cow. But I also have this other thing which I kind of cashed in, and that is if you put something in front of me and either force me to at the threat of death or bodily harm, or because I like what you set in front of me, I'll do my best. I have no other way of doing it.
Hmm.
I'll just try to do the best I can at what this is. And so what was put in front of me was industrial design, even though, oh my God, this is not right. No, this is not what I signed up for, but I was already there. So I was pretty good at it. So I got through it. I mean, and then, but what, so my best friend in Syracuse University was Carl Gottlieb. Does that ring a bell? It might or might not. I mean, there's no reason to, but it's
It,
familiar.
it
You do
sounds
know I'm going to
familiar.
tell you who it is, and you go, oh, yeah, right. Carl Gottlieb wanted to be a writer. He was in the, I don't know, the writing department or whatever, but we weren't in the same school, but we hung out together. We just had the same kind of point of view of the world.
Hmm.
He later wrote the movie Jaws. That's where we know
Okay.
it came from. Carl Gottlieb wrote Jaws with the writer of the novel, and he was my best friend. So when it came time for me to graduate, I didn't know what I was going to do. Um, I didn't want to be an industrial designer. I knew as soon as this was over and I got my degree, I I was finished with family and with their desires. I just didn't even go home from graduating.
Hmm.
I asked him, I said, what are you going to do when you graduate? We were both going to graduate at the same time. And he says, I'm going to go to Greenwich Village and be a writer. And that's what he did. And I said, you need a roommate? And he goes, yeah, yeah. I mean, he had no cash. I mean, we were all going to look for jobs. So I said, well, I'll be your roommate. He says, well, how are you going to pay the rent? And I said, I don't know. I'll share the rent with you, but I'll get a temp job, but I have no desire to do anything really. Like I say, I don't want to do anything, but
Hmm.
to pay the rent and not go home to live at the house, I'll get something. So I did. So we made a pact that if I got 2 months behind in the rent, he would kick me out or I would leave voluntarily because he needed the other half of the rent. I said, fine. And the shortest temp job I ever had was 4 hours. Um, because I was desperate to pay the rent. That was all. So if somebody came, if there was a job opening and it was awful, I would take it just to get the money to give Carl.
Mhm.
I mean, that was all it was. And I would stay in it as long as I could just to pay the rent. So I go to this, and it was this. Okay, so when you get a magazine, I think it's even called a dropout or a fallout. When you open a magazine, there's a card in it that drops out, and
Yeah.
in it
Yeah.
is an advertisement. Well, I was in one of the companies for Revlon makeup lipstick, and that was one of the dropouts. It was a card that said, "Here are 3 or 4 new Revlon lipstick colors." Obviously, this was for women,
Mhm.
but or graffiti artists. I don't know which, but um, and what you do is you check the color that you prefer, and you send that card in to Revlon, and they'll send you a free couple of them. But really, what they were trying to do is find out what the mass public, what color they really liked, and that's what they would mass produce.
Mhm.
So that what they did was, and it was a kind of a couple of bucks an hour, enough to pay the rent. So my first day on the job, they put me in a little cubby hole, and here was these stacks of more than 1,000 of these dropout cards, all checked, things that people had sent in. Where they sent them was to this place that I worked, and what I had to do was collate them and and look at the cards, see what color they checked, and transfer that to a computerized thing or a so that Revlon could just get a sheet and
Mhm.
say, okay, they all like this color red. Let's go with this. I had to transfer thousands of those cards into something that could be sent to Revlon that wasn't 1,000 cards. It was
Mhm.
just.
You could have done the
So I did
funniest
that.
thing and
Excuse
just
me?
chose what I said you could have done the funniest thing and just chose the most buck wild color. And that would have
Well,
been like, this is the one they wanted. And then everyone
oh,
out
well,
there's like,
no, I couldn't even, that would take me too long. After 4 hours, I hated this job.
Mhm.
I really hated it. And but again, like I said, I try to do the best I can if I'm forced to, and I was forced to. So it wasn't in my mind to fuck with it, although that's what I wanted to do. So instead, I figured I would fuck with the company that hired me. That was close. I knew them. I knew their names. I was working with them. Okay, so after 4 hours, a lady comes in, a little old lady actually came in and said, "You're Larry, right?" I go, "Yeah." She says, "You go to lunch now. Come back in an hour." This is my first day on the job. Already, I hated it. So I went to lunch. This is Midtown Manhattan. I went to lunch, and during lunch, I thought, I can't go back there. I just can't. I mean, I hate the job. I don't care. I'll find another thing, or Carl will kick me out, or maybe I'll borrow money from Carl for another month. I don't know, but I can't go back there. So I didn't. I didn't go back. I just walked away. I worked there for 4 hours. Okay. I worked there for 4 hours. I got one other temp job for a couple of bucks. I eked out that month's rent. And then I thought I couldn't get another job. And I thought, wait a minute. I worked for that Revlon company for 4 hours and I never went back. They owe me 4 hours worth of money. I need that money. I was desperate. So how can I go back and get the 4 hours? I mean, I just blew them off. They'll probably blow me off. So I got, I don't know what I got. It seemed to me that I got some sort of long napkin, like in expensive restaurants,
Mhm.
this really long, big. Okay. And I tied a knot in it like a loop and I put it around my neck and I put my arm in it and I had a broken arm. Cool. And I walked into Revlon and I said, "Hi, my name is Larry Hankin." And there was all little old ladies working there. That's who they worked there. And they go, "Oh, Larry, what happened to you? You walked out and you didn't." They weren't mad. I mean, I guess little old ladies really don't get that mad. Really. And they said, "Oh, Larry, we liked you working. And what happened to you?" And they look at my arms. "What happened?" I said, "Well, I went to lunch and I got hit by a car. I went to the hospital. I'm healing now. Took me a month, but I really need that money. I can't work. I'm left-handed. It's my left hand. I need the money. Could you play me the 4 hours worth of work?" And they very gladly did that. And they did. They paid me in cash. I said, "I need cash." "Okay, fine." And they gave me cash out of the drawer or whatever. They gave it to me, and they said, and I said, "Thank you very much." And they said, "Yeah, well, listen, when you get your arm healed, come on back. We love you. Thank you very much, little old ladies. Thank you." And I left. And that money I turned over to Carl. And then ultimately I got another job. Okay. So that's the shortest job I ever had. But I thought, I really fooled those old ladies. How can I use that? That must be a talent of mine, you
Hmm.
know, I can lie really well. So what I did was over the years, no, not over the years, over that whole time, um, because I was not working most of the time because of these temp jobs. My evenings were my own in Greenwich Village. We lived in Greenwich Village, and Carl just wrote. He either wrote for a newspaper, some obscure newspaper, or he wrote little stories that he would send away. But he was always busy doing something, and he had no time for me. So I would hang out in Greenwich Village in these coffee houses, and I would see these people on the stage. You know, it was kind of cheap because you could buy a cup of coffee and sit there for the whole night. And it was like open mic night. 3 minutes. So I would see these comedians. It was just folk singers and comedians. That was all. And so I was watching the comedians. I couldn't sing or play an instrument, but the comedy was. I'm funnier than that, you know. So I got up on the stage. Now, being funny to you guys or to friends is not like getting up on a stage and being funny to an audience.
Hmm.
It's the same funny. It might be if you get the right attitude and the right rhythm and the right blah, blah, blah. But no. So I was awful. I still remember the stuff that I used. It's just not funny at all. It's just weird stuff that I thought might be funny. It wasn't even funny to me. I thought, well, weird is funny, right? Okay. No, it's not. But I started to get really good at it. Again, put something in front of me, do it long enough, and I'll get really good at it.
Hmm.
And I started to get really good. So one day, this guy comes walking in. He says, "You got a manager?" And I go, "No, this is a coffee house. I go, "No." And I was still, yeah, I graduated from doing 3 minutes. That's what you were given, 3 to 5 minutes, to being the host of
Hmm.
Mike Night. That was like a big thing. And I could do 10 minutes, if I wanted. That was the big thing. He says, "Well, I'm a manager and I think you're pretty funny. How would you like me to be your manager?" And I said, "Sure. That's why everybody here is here. The folk singers. It's not to be famous. It's not to be rich. It's to get representation." That was the thing, man. And so I said, "Fine." He says, "Here's my name, my phone number, if you need anything, but I'll be back in a couple of weeks or in a couple of days to check on you. But if anybody asks you, who your manager is, do you have a manager? You say yes. And here's my name." And his name was Jack Rollins. Jack Rollins handled um, Mike Nichols and Elaine May and Woody Allen. I didn't know that. So that night, when I'm hanging around at the bar, and where everybody's bragging about, hey, I did a really great set. Hey, Larry, anything happened to you? And I said, yeah, I got a manager. I just, that's the only thing I had to brag about, over a beer. And they go, oh, yeah, well, who is it? And I said, Jack Rollins or something. And they go, Jack Rollins? You got Jack Rollins? Holy cow. That's Woody Allen, that blah, blah, blah. And I go, holy cow, that's weird. And then I get a call from Jack Rollins saying, okay, I got your booking. You do? He goes, yeah, and it's not very far. It's in Greenwich Village. It's called Number One Fifth Avenue. And it's a nightclub. And you open for a chanteuse, one of those singers,
Mhm.
love songs and stuff, like a really nightclub singer with a dress and things, not a freak, not a hippie, but nightclub. And so I open. Oh, and he says, but here's the thing: it's a nightclub, Larry. Do you have a tuxedo? What? No, no. I mean, I just have jeans and t-shirts. That's all I have, and a warm jacket for the winter. And he goes, "Oh my God. Okay, fine. I'll buy you a tuxedo. You will? Yeah, just go to this place and tell him, Jack Rollins sent you." And so he bought me, not rented me one, but he bought me a tuxedo. I don't have it anymore, but I kept it for a long time. But I worked in a tuxedo, so I go from a coffee house
Mhm.
in sneakers and ripped jeans and a t-shirt to a tuxedo 5 blocks away. It was only 5 blocks away to Number One Fifth Avenue, so I could still walk to work because we lived in Greenwich Village. And I opened, and I did pretty well. I mean, the stuff that was kind of mildly funny in Greenwich Village was uproariously funny to the uptown crowd because I was just telling stories about Greenwich Village and
Mhm.
hippies and what I was and stuff that I lived. And to them, that was like unique stuff, that was, oh my God, people were getting high and wow. Uh, you know, I was on the forefront of comedy.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it. I was talking about getting marijuana, and I was talking about that. Now, at that time, I wasn't getting high, but everybody else around me was. I mean, that's how naive I was. But I was among people getting high,
Mhm.
so I would be imitating, in a funny way, all the people around me that were high and folk singers. And to the uptown crowd, which was Number One Fifth Avenue, everybody was in suits and stuff, you know. This was unique and on the edge, on the cutting edge. I mean, this was before, Richie Pryor and, Carlin and stuff. But eventually I started, and then he started sending me around. Jack Rollins started sending me around, and I got to open with Woody Allen and stuff. So that was kind of fun, but it was still just paying the rent. I guess my point is that when I started flying around to nightclubs all over the United States, yeah, it was good money. It was not regular money, but when you did get paid, you get paid a lot of money
Mhm.
to open for these acts like Miles Davis and blah, blah, blah. So what happened was my source, Greenwich Village, and the weirdness of Greenwich Village to the uptown crowd, which was unique, and they really laughed because I was flying around and making. I lost my contact. I lost my source. I wasn't living in Greenwich Village anymore. I was living in motels and hotels and airports,
Mhm.
and I didn't know how to make that funny because I wasn't a part of it.
Mhm.
I was a hippie, uh, so I stopped being funny. I had no source. I couldn't I couldn't make stuff up.
Mhm.
I could only tell stories about the people that I saw. Hey man, that was funny to the uptown crowd. You just said, "Hey man," I get a laugh. Not anymore, but back then. This is in the early 60s. Yeah, early 60s. Um, yeah, so I'm trying to go back to that now. I can't find out what you were first talking about what the danger was,
I don't remember what the question.
well, the question was, you said 3 years ago, we wrote it down to ask you questions about, I life threatening or something like that. I'm
Oh yeah.
telling these stories. I'm trying to figure out what the hell were they,
Well,
because it probably was interesting if I could just remember, you know.
do you remember the first joke that you told that actually worked?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, I can't construct it, but I remember the words and the images I used. The first, I can remember the first joke I ever told, which is
Mhm.
not funny at all, but that I remember. This non-funny joke. I was trying to combine ridiculousness with my real life. And I
Mhm.
remember, uh, okay, last night, this was the truth of it, just the memory was that it was the middle of the summer in New York, which gets kind of hot, and we were living very cheaply, and there was no air conditioning. So, but there was a mosquito, and it was just buzzing and keeping me awake, And I thought, oh man, and because it's in the middle of the night, and I didn't want to put on a light, and I guess it kept me up all night, and I couldn't kill it. And actually, I finally found a way to get rid of bugs at night. I finally got rid of it after about 3 or 4 days. All you do is put a light on in the next room and leave your bedroom door open.
Oh
These
yeah,
mosquitoes go to the light. It's
yeah.
gone. I mean, no sweat. Just click, open the door, and then gone. And he'll be with the light the whole night. That took me a while. It took me months to figure that out. But the mosquito kept me up all night, and I thought I can make that funny. Yeah, me talking to myself, I can make that funny. I can do anything. I can make a mosquito funny. So I thought, okay, I'll tell the people, and this is the joke. There was I'll tell the people, the audience, that okay, I was up all night, and so I figured out what I could do is I'll psychoanalyze the mosquito, get him to lie down on a very tiny couch, and then take the couch and slam it against the ceiling and crush him. It didn't work. It didn't
Yeah.
work. Uh,
I'm
oh,
laughing out of awkwardness, not
oh
because it
yes,
was funny.
I'm laughing at the ridiculousness of me even trying that, even thinking it might work. Uh, um, but I did it. I did it. I think I tried it 2 nights before I realized it's not working. It's not working. Uh, Now, the thing I do remember about the first joke, the first funny joke that worked, was something about marzipan. And that's all I remember about marzipan. And oh, okay, it was a Hayman thing. That's why I said that before. Okay, it was cops were really funny in those days. That was hippies, marijuana, and cops. If you had that in your funny bag, in your set, in your 3 minutes to 5 minutes, if you told anything about a cop, marijuana, or hippies, cops, or marijuana, you would be way ahead of the other comedians for the 3 minutes or 5 minutes. So mine was, I remember thinking we were all getting high. And even when, it was a party or something and everybody's smoking, I would pass it on. I wouldn't take it. I didn't know what the deal was. I was that naive. I think I'll go crazy. Or, I mean, nobody was going crazy. They were all, having fun. That was all. but I didn't. It took me a while, and then finally I got into everything. But then no. But on stage, I was forced to explore marijuana, hippies, or cops. That
Hmm.
I knew that you tell it something about them and you get a laugh. So I said we were having a party and everybody was high, and all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom on the door, and we all thought, oh my God, it's the cops, and everybody's going like this, going like this. And I opened the door and I said, hey man, what do you and it was the cops, and I said, hey man. And when I said, hey man, the audience laughed. So that was the first joke. They laughed at the way I said it and the fact that I was imitating hippies, because 90%, even though it was Greenwich Village and it was a coffee house, I doubted if anybody in the audience really had any idea what marijuana was even. I mean, this is, in the early 60s. Um, they were tourists. That was what coffee houses were all about. I mean, no, all the hippies didn't have that much money. That's why they were hippies. So so yeah, the audience was uptown, and you went, "Hey man," and you were talking about marijuana and cops. That was funny. So yeah, and then you built on that. But once you took me out of that, and Jack Rollins started booking me around, he took me out of my source element,
Hmm.
imitating what I saw around me. And I was dressed like them, but I just didn't do the drugs then. Uh, I stopped being as funny as when I was in the coffee houses and,
Hmm.
in New York City, even. I mean, in the Midwest, in the early 60s, no way. It was just, what the? So I just called Jack and I said, look, man, something's wrong. Oh, what he had me doing then was opening for Woody. So Woody would guarantee a full house in a nightclub. And I was pretty funny, but not as funny as Woody. And that made me that was when I finally started to see, oh, there's a whole craft to this. Woody knew how to write funny stuff, and then he knew how to deliver it. I mean,
Hmm.
there was a craft to what he was doing, and he was really good at it. And it just, wow. So being taken out of my element and seeing Woody being so successful in the same audience I had just opened for, and he comes out and kills. The interesting thing about Woody Allen was he would always throw up before he went on stage.
Hmm.
Always. It was like really weird. And he always asked me to stand by the men's room door to not let anybody in while he threw up. But I could hear him go, I said, no, no. He just said, and then when that stopped, and then, he'd come out and you go, okay, come, then, okay, fine. And you could go in. So that was my job with Woody. No, you can't go in there. Why not? I can't tell you. Was throwing up in there. Cool. So I called and I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm not as funny as Woody, and I'm getting less funny. I'm losing his audience. They stopped even laughing at me. I mean, not totally silenced, but they weren't laughing as much as even at me. Never mind him killing. That just screwed me up. Uh, so he said, "Well, join Second City," which is the best advice I ever had, really. He said, "Just join Second City. You're funny. Don't worry about it, man." And well, he didn't say man. He wasn't that kind of guy. That's when I auditioned for Second City and blah blah blah, and that's how I became an actor. But those days, how comedy is different now, there are no coffee houses. There is no place to break in material. In Greenwich Village, the great thing about, and I keep on telling the Crow about this because they're the only place I could go to, and I'm famous enough to just walk in and say, "Hey, let me do 10 minutes." And they go, "Oh, Larry, sure. We saw you on Seinfeld last night. Sure, you're
Hmm.
funny." Um, and I know something about comedy, so I can hold my own for 9 or 10 minutes. It's okay. And anyway, they're fans, so they don't care if I make
Hmm.
them laugh or not. It's just, oh, it's Larry. Great. And you ride on that. Uh, yeah, the difference is that there's no place to break in. In Greenwich Village, there was 4 coffee houses on every block for about 3 or 4 blocks square of Greenwich Village entertainments crap. And the coffee. So what you do is, and they had so Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday were open mic nights. So in those 3 nights, you could go at 7 o'clock. You sign up in this one place, and 8:30 you go in this place and sign up. 10:30 you go to this place, and maybe midnight you do a midnight show. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 places a night. You could try it here, kind of, correct it on the second place, blah blah blah, and by the time 2 or 3 weeks go by, let's see, that's 3, 4, 3 nights, I don't know, 12, 24, 48. That's 48 places you've been in half a month or something like that. You can break in material like that. Uh, every month you could come up with another 10 or 15 minutes.
Hmm.
So you would gather. Now you try to get 10 minutes of, and I ask other comedians who I see at the Crow, and I go, where do you break in your material? How do you? He said, it's really hard, man. You have to travel out to the valley, and you have to go here and there, and you have to look it up on the internet where places are that have open mic night. So it's very different and very difficult. I guess anything is very difficult now.
Have you heard of a show called Kill Tony? It's based in Austin, Texas. He has like a 2.5 hour podcast where he literally has a bucket full of names, and that's his thing. Is he and like you get 1 minute, so he'll draw your name from a bucket, and you come up on stage and you have to perform a minute, and it helps people break in. And if you do a good minute, they have like later on in the week they do an actual like show where you get 5 minutes if you do good on the 1 minute. and
Oh,
and
that's
that's
like there's a TV show where that happens. It's called
yeah, Kill Tony. It's a YouTube podcast and it's on Netflix. It's now streaming on Netflix too.
well, okay, they've reinvented what I just explained to you back in the
Yeah,
60s. Only they do it now. It's now on the internet instead of
yeah.
a real audience.
And one of the
Yeah,
guys is
well,
now on
that's a
SNL.
good start.
He
That
started
would help. That's
on Kill
kind of
Tony, and it's been like 2 years, and he now is one of the new cast members on the newest season of SNL.
whoa.
Yeah, so I was like, that's kind of
Well,
the
that's what
modern
I went
thing
through.
of what you're.
There's a what is I now they have famous people on it. It was a program where he has 5 comedians, and he's the host. This guy who invented the show. It's a TV show. It's been on for years. But what he has is just beginning comedians, and they sit, and then he kind of says, "Hey, like Jerry, tell us about. You said you drink a lot of coffee. Tell us about that." And that would be his hunk. He would say, and then, oh yeah, well, I have this, and they have this little 3 minute story that is very funny, and then you go around. But Jerry wasn't famous, and his coffee story was mildly funny, but they were mildly funny for enough to fill a half hour, and it was on very very late at night. I stopped watching because it wasn't funny to me. It was, I understand what you're trying to do, and it's really neat, but forget it. Okay, now he's in prime time, and he comes on NBC right after the main guy at midnight. So like at 12:30 or 1 o'clock, when that's over, this thing comes on, and he has now really funny, famous comedians sit on it, and I go, wow, man. I mean, I guess keeping at it pays off. That's the big time now.
Yeah.
His show. He's got big time comedians. When he started years ago, I couldn't even watch it. Now, at least these people have tried and true material that they come and tell 3 minutes of, so they don't blow their whole set.
Yeah.
And it kind of works, but it's the same guy. He's just kept at it, and he owns it. I don't know. But okay, let me just tell you about. I have these two books.
Yeah.
See, I don't. I'm not in show business anymore. I never wanted to be an actor. Like I said, I just fell into it. But here's these two books, and I want to tell you, this one just came out. It's called Poor Barnum's Journal by me, and this is the other one, and it's called That Guy and this is about my show business things. They're funny stories about me on the set, and who I'm talking to, and about famous people. But it's a cautionary tale, like don't get into show business unless you desire to be an asshole or rich. Either one, it's up to you. But this one is totally different. I thought, okay, I've done that. Let me try to be a real writer. Let me write a novel, a story. That's funny, but So this one is called Poor Barnum's Journal, and they're both on Amazon.com. So just Larry Hankin books, and you'll come to these. But this one is really cool. I really like this book. It just came out like yesterday or last week. I mean, it's really fresh. It's just getting into stores now. It probably won't be in stores for another 2 weeks. But the whole point of this is, I'll tell you what the plot. What the synopsis is. And I wrote it for my fans, whoever you are. I mean, if you really want to spend like just a couple of bucks, not $20 or $30 for a signature. If you want to have a book, what you want to do is, the story is this. Okay, and I wrote it because the book business is worse than show business. The book business is a scam, but it's a grand scam that people love. Go into any bookstore, like Barnes and Noble or even Amazon or whatever local bookstore. The bookstore is filled with books. And if you go on Amazon Books is filled with books. So, and across the United States, there's millions and millions, if not billions, of books. So that's your competition. If you want to be a stand-up comedian, maybe, thousands or hundreds. No, books, your competition is millions or billions. And you have to pay. 90% of all books are paid for by the person who wrote the book. Hey, publisher, please publish my book. I'll give you $1,000 to publish it. That's 90%. What you really want is Simon and Schuster or Penguin or blah, blah, the big boys. No, they pay you. Your book is so good, we'll pay you $1,000 to let us publish it. But that's hard, man. So 90% of all books have been paid for by the writer and really don't get sold. Those are all books that they put up there. They don't sell all those books. They sell maybe, one book a year, unless you pay for it not only to get it published, but to publicize it. That's the key. And those two things, paying to get your book published and then paying to get it publicized, is the scam of all books. I'm just warning you. If you can get it and you can write and make enough phone calls to get like Simon and Schuster to print it, it's worth it because you can make like thousands of dollars. But it takes you a long time, man. And it's basically, even the people in the business who I've spoken to, because I've written like 3 books now, man. But the whole point is, I wrote it for fans because it's my humor. And it's just, okay, I wrote it, and there's 2 main characters. Main character is a guy named Theodore Jinsky, is a book agent. And he has this idea, this book agent, to write his own book because he's an agent. He can sell it easy. He's got contacts to Simon and Schuster and stuff. That's all he does is try to sell your book to Simon and Schuster. So he goes and he talks to, like he goes to Greenwich Village. I got this idea because I used to walk around in Greenwich Village and there would be these homeless guys writing in these notebooks all over the village. They didn't know each other. They just said, oh, I don't know. And I would go around seeing them every once in a while. And whoever I saw writing a book, a homeless person, if they were writing a book, and it was all guys, no women back then who were homeless, or they didn't show it. They became hookers, I guess. I don't know what. But these guys were just begging for money. And they would be writing in a book. So I'd say, hey, well, what are you writing? And he'd say, none of your effing business. I go, okay, fine. Hey, man, leave me alone. Or so after about asking about 100 homeless people over a period of months, hey, what are you writing? Can I read it? Or would you read something? They all just blew me off, man. They just said, hey, get out of here. None of your business. Or no, I'm not going to. None of them would tell me what they were writing. I mean, they could have been scribbling for all I know. It could have been nonsense. Okay. And I always wondered, what the hell are they writing? If they were writing, what could it be?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay. So when I thought about writing a real book about, real people and stuff instead of show business, I thought, I'm going to write a book about homeless people because I was homeless for a year. I lived in my car for a year up in San Francisco when I was an actor. That's when I was an actor. And I didn't want to do anything. I said, well, let me just try being homeless. Let me see what that's like. And I had a VW bus. And so I said, I can live in my bus, and I have enough money saved so I can feed myself if I was very parsimonious with the money, and gas. That was it. Gas and food. That was all I needed. And so I lived in my car for a year, and I did it. And then I said, okay, I'm finished. I can do it. It's fine. But I saw the life. So I thought, I don't want to write about my life because it wasn't that interesting. Being homeless is not interesting. But I spoke to a lot of homeless people, and I was among homeless people, and they became my friends because I was one of them, that they were really interesting. So I wrote a book that they were writing, that like one particular guy, not about my life, but about his life. And so I thought, all right, Theodore Jinsky is the agent, and he comes upon a homeless guy in a late night coffee house who needs somebody to talk to. So the agent talks to him. His name is Barnum Justice was the homeless guy that I made up.
Mm-hmm.
And the homeless guy talks to Theo Jinsky, and Theo Jinsky starts asking him questions. He's like, hey, I'm writing a book. I need to do research. Could you help me out? I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. And the homeless guy says, I'm not only homeless, I'm a poet. Why don't you let me write the book for you? And he goes, no, no, no. But the guy's persistent.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that they have, homeless people. They are tenacious. And that's how they stay alive. They're just tenacious, man. That's the one thing that keeps them alive and not dying. And he's tenacious. He says, no, I'm a poet, man. I write really good stuff, man. Just let me write the book for you. So he says, okay, I'll do it. And he says, but you have to let me be the agent, and I'll just get my 10%, and you can write the book. But I know that homelessness is very important now in America, and I know it'll be a big bestseller. So he says, okay. And so they make a pact, and the agent makes a contract. He goes, he gets a contract, and he says, and by feeding this guy, Barnum, for a couple of days, at least one meal, breakfast, he gets him to sign. Okay, so now Barnum Justice is going to write this book for Theo Jinsky. And the only guarantee, so now he signs as he's eating breakfast, and he says, Barnum says, now what? Now what? And so Theodore says, now you owe me a book. If you write it, it's got to be, I think the word is 70,000 words. There's a rule. You can't just write any, it's got to be 70,000 words. She says, it has to be 70,000 words, and you owe me a book. We signed a contract, and I only get 10%, and you get the rest. Because Barnum also has this weird, what do you call it, home for homeless people thing he's trying to save up, which he'll never do. But he says, yeah, well, all the money is gone. So he says, we have to divide it three ways. You'll get 30%, I get 30%, and 30% goes to the home for the homeless, which will never happen. We all know that, but okay. Just, all right, fine. But Theodore says, you owe me a book. Fine. And then Barnum disappears for years. The agent, the book agent, forgets about him, gets a job as a book agent in New York City, and forgets about it. And then one day he gets a package, and in the package is the book. And the book is this. And I wrote this from Barnum Justice's point of view. And it turns out, and it's my sense of humor, yes, that is true. It's how I look at Homo sapiens and being homeless and climate change and politics and the United States and people in general, begging and what it's like to live on the street and blah, blah, blah. And it's really funny. It really is. And he finally gets a girlfriend. And so it's about, does he move in with her? And what does he lose and what does he gain? And what do you gain by being homeless? What do you lose by being homeless? What do you gain by living with somebody? And what do you lose by living with somebody? And it's okay. That's the entire book. About the first 30 pages are him and Barnum, and the rest of the book is just Barnum. Now, Barnum not only is a really cool writer, he really is a homeless poet, but he's really a good poet. But he's got a jaundiced eye. So what you and I look at is just, well, these are just people. No, man, he either hates them or loves them or just likes to just, he's got a weird, he's not, it's me to the, I guess we all have a little bit of either anger or love. And that's all he has. It's just anger and love. And it's pretty funny. So I would recommend this, but it's really cheap. I don't know, it's about $14.
It is. I have it. I just added it to my cart. It's 20.99 on Amazon.
Holy cow! See, I have no. That's not too. Again, that's too much money.
What if I send you $20? Will you
No.
then sign a picture of yourself?
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, right. Because I can buy. I guess here's what it is. I can buy this for $14 because I wrote.
Yeah.
See, but I paid for this. I paid for this. And I paid for this, and what I get for free is they get it on Amazon. I get one book. This cost me, I'd say, $2,000 to get this published. I
That's
paid.
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. $2,000, and I also and they give me one free book, but I can pay only $14. So when I go to Comic-Con, I'll order like 10,
Hmm.
and it takes like a month to get there, so I have to order it a month in advance. And then I go to Comic-Con and I sell these. Well, I sell these because this is already a year old.
Hmm.
I sell these uh, for $20 or $17. I make $2 a book, something like that. Uh, but yeah, the thing about the upside of books is once you get it published, whether you pay for it or get with the big boys you don't have to worry. They'll publish it and they'll publicize it. But if you just like me and you just publish this, um, it's forever. It's I one of my publishers, what's his Bear Manor Bear Manor Media. Bear Manor Media. I said, well, the book isn't doing very well, is it? I wasn't making the kind of bucks you think you're going to make.
Hmm.
And he said, yeah, Larry, but we sell movie memorabilia, and your book fits into our particular thing that we sell, and we make money, they make money over the long haul. So you don't make money much now, but the longer your book is out there, the more money you'll make. Eventually, and what he meant eventually, said, when you die, this will probably be a bestseller. So that's comforting to know. Uh, but it is out there, and I've willed this to my sister.
Hmm.
After I die, she'll get the big bucks.
Yeah.
But if you can get a real good agent like Barnum did, he got Theo Jinsky to
Hmm.
be. Yeah, if you can get an agent or a manager, a book manager, an agent, you can make a lot of money. I mean, that's why I've done it. So I've written two. I would suggest buying. Christmas is coming up. They're great stocking stuffers. If it's only 20 bucks, you'd have to send away for it pretty soon because it takes. Well, Amazon just does it.
Amazon's fast, yeah.
They send it by pigeon, I think.
They have
They
the
catch it. Flap, fucking flap, flap.
they have flying Roombas that just drop shit off at
Yeah,
your house now.
I mean it's amazing. I live in an apartment. This is an apartment house here, and they leave all packages downstairs. Sometimes I'll leave it at your door, but mainly, it's so funny. They have like a bureau and for all the apartments. So what the mailman should do when they come with a box from Amazon, or Amazon sends a lot of boxes out, man, because they give the one key to the mailman, and he can open any of the drawers. And if you get a book or anything package, you open the drawer, drop it in, and that's your drawer, and you have a key to that drawer
Hmm.
to your apartment. So, but mailmen are lazy. They don't want to open each drawer and drop in. They're doing that, to your mail, now to do your packages too. So they just pile up the packages on the top of the dresser that all these drawers are on. So sometimes you'll come down in the morning to look for your mail, and there's a stack of boxes from all kinds of people, Amazon and whoever sends out boxes. But like 20 or 30 boxes. Well, every day, that's like a lot of boxes. Uh, so you have to get down there because people then steal your package because it's just standing out there in the lobby and stuff like that. But people do that, and a lot of people send away for books. I see the packages all stacked up there. Uh, yeah, so send away now. It's and it'll come in time for Christmas, and you can put it under a tree. It's really a good gift, and they're really funny. Now, what I'm
You have all
doing,
three of your books are on Amazon, actually.
Yeah, but the first one is called
The
Loophole,
Loopholes Dossier, and
Dossier.
it's $26.
Yeah, but it's not it's my first book. It's okay. It's my first book though. And it has a little of the humor of each of these books in it.
Mhm.
But these are full-blown actually author books. These are real books.
Yeah.
That one is a test run. Uh, but uh, what you're supposed to do when you pay for your book, as opposed to somebody paying you for the book
Mhm.
to publish it. One of the things they say is, well, you got to publicize it. I mean, we'll publish it, but you got to, and we'll publicize it too, which they don't do very good. But they tell you, you got to publicize it. You got to do your share to get your book out there. Um, but that costs a lot of money, so it's a lot of work. I mean, to write a book is a lot of work, more work than you think.
Mhm.
Writing a book is a lot of work. I mean, just sitting there typing. A lot of people like to type. I get into it. All this talking that I'm doing now, it's easier for me to just type it out. Because I'm
Mhm.
sitting. What? Oh, wow! You have a fan on.
Oh, Jeff, yeah.
Yeah.
My mind. I'm going. Whoa, 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 whoa. They're trying to hypnotize me.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So it's easier to just pay $20 and buy a book than
Mhm.
actually write one. I mean, it's a lot of trouble. Buy a book.
Well,
Okay, that's it. That's that.
yeah.
But okay, the last thing I have to say about that is
Mhm.
what I just did was I advertised my book.
Mhm.
I hardly ever do that. This is one of the first time I thought when I talked to Adam, I'm going to try to publicize my books and see how it goes. I,
Yes.
I don't know how'd that work. Did it
It went
work?
well. It went good.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I don't.
All right. That's the first time I've ever advertised my books. I generally just hold it up and say, I wrote this.
Yeah.
Call that guy, buy it. Okay. I generally just say that and continue.
Well, I think well, your new book, I feel like the longer explanation works well. Like your first book, it's more talking about
Oh,
your
you're not a
life,
fan. You're
and
not a
this,
fan.
yeah,
I wrote that just for fans. I thought, oh, I have so many fans. I'm big in Germany and India.
yeah.
Because of the movies and TV shows I've been in are big in those two countries. Friends and Seinfeld
Hmm.
are very big in India, especially Friends. Friends, I get emails and fan mails from India all the time. It's really great. And Germany too. Uh, I think Seinfeld is big in Germany. So other than that, but yeah, I think I'm gonna save up enough money and get a publicist.
Hmm.
That's what you need, a publicist, which
Well,
will cost thousands of dollars. But that's the scam of books.
yep.
That's the scam. In other words, you do get a book. This is real. I can hold it in my hand. But if you want to make money off of writing a book, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you. Now, if you have money and you publicize it, you could make your money back plus, but it's iffy.
Yeah.
But
Well,
you do have look. I have a book for each hand.
oh,
Yeah, and here's the reviews. It's great reviews. A funny, entertaining, cautionary tale. I read your menu. It's an engaging romp. Wonderful. It could be a bestseller and possibly a movie. You see how they hedge that?
hey, I'm writing scripts. Maybe I'll write a script based off of it.
No, somebody. There is a guy, a young man who's a director. Uh, yeah, keep on writing scripts. That's good. Who said he wants to make a movie out of this? I don't see how he could. it's just episodic. It's about
Hmm.
Friends. It's about Seinfeld. It's about Breaking Bad. It's about this. So I don't see how you can make a movie about that.
More
But
like
this is his
a
one
biopic,
story.
maybe. Yeah,
What?
more like a biopic, maybe a biopic of
Well, no,
Larry
he also
Hankin.
said his name is Kyle Misak. He's in Wisconsin, but he makes feature films. I've seen four of his films. They're pretty good. They're not great, but they're pretty good. Uh, it could be a book.
Yeah.
No, it is a book. Um, yeah. So, but I think Poor Man's Journal would be a great movie because it's about this homeless poet who's really actually a great character. In other words, he's just not homeless and a wasted life. He really has. He's a window washer. That's how he makes his money. So he's employed himself.
Hmm.
He's found or purchased a window brush, a squeegee. He calls himself a homeless poet and squeegee enthusiast. Is what his uh, working title is. So he makes his money by doing that. By store, his uh, his job is I wash store windows to monocles, and I love irony. That's his catchphrase when you ask him who he is and what he does. I'm a homeless poet and squeegee enthusiast, and he'll clean your glasses. He'll wash your car windows. Anything that's smooth and clear that you can see through, he will wipe or wash. That's him, not me. That's what he said. He's well defined. He's well defined, and he finally falls in love with a barmaid, and he moves in with her, and he's always torn between what have I lost and what have I gained. Well, what have I lost by just being free and living on the sidewalk in a tent? In he calls where he was, where the cops won't, move him. They call them green zones.
Hmm.
He lives in green zones, he says, but they're really streets where the cops don't bother him. Which is kind of, where do you live in Chicago, right?
Suburbs. Yeah.
Well, what suburb? What's the name of the suburb?
Grew up in Wheaton.
Wheaton. I've heard of that. Wheaton. Okay. Yeah. So do you have homeless people around?
Not really in my area. Jeff's in Woodridge, Downers Grove area. I don't know. Do
I
you
don't really
have?
have, not really.
I think
I
that
feel like
most
down in like
homeless people,
Joliet.
yeah, it's usually more south.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're homeless people tend to migrate to. They're very urban. It's an
Hmm.
urban problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Business, yeah. But there are streets around here where you see they're all lined up. We're next to one another on one street, and then about 2 months later, it's gone, and then they've all moved to another street, and then so the cops don't bust them because I think all jails are full of homeless people.
Well, we
So
have Jeff, have you passed? I think he's in Naperville. There's the homeless guy that has like a whole tent
Yeah.
complex. We have
Yeah.
this guy who has like six tents that he's
wow,
found a legal loophole that he basically
wow.
lives on an easement and has like six tents that are connected with tarps, and that's where he lives is like this weird little area, and they've tried so many times to kick him out and they can't.
He's a fighter.
Like
They're tenacious, man. Well, I mean, they're on their back heels, man. I mean,
this guy's
they
been
are.
there for longer than I've been alive, though. Like he's been there
Oh,
forever. So I mean, about 40
tenacity,
years
man,
he's been there, and it's
pays off.
yeah.
I mean, because
Um,
if he loses that tent city of his, I mean, he may die. I mean,
yeah.
in other words, there's a reason they're tenacious. It's not that. I mean, their back is against the wall. They have very little room to maneuver. So.
We're gonna let you go, but Jeff has some quick fire questions for you. But just
Okay.
before he starts that, I was going through the transcript of our previous episodes to try and get more context for my notes about your life-threatening circumstances. And it was mentioned we'll do this in maybe 4 or 5 months. We'll have you back on, and
Oh,
we'll start
oh,
with
I'll be another person by then.
yeah, we'll
Great.
start with these, and it's the notes are a gun and two knives, and one time you almost died on
Oh,
stage.
that. Oh, that.
So next
Yeah.
time, keep that in the back of your brain.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
remind you before our next episode, but maybe in like early next year, we'll schedule
Right.
another interview, and
Yes,
we
that
can
was literally what you're talking about. Those were life
yeah.
threatening. Yeah.
So
That's
yeah.
interesting. We should have talked about that. That's interesting. I don't know what that
We'll
was
do
about
we'll
now.
do it in a few months. I'll call you in like a in January and we'll schedule it.
Okay. Do you have my phone number?
Yes.
Okay. It's better to call me. I'll because I can get more information and stuff like that. But okay,
Absolutely.
great. Next time. Okay,
All
so
right.
Jeff, well, what's up?
All right, we got some quick fire
You're
here.
gonna hypnotize me with that. Okay,
No,
that's
Yeah.
fine.
I can
Okay.
try to angle this down a little. There you go.
Yes, Jeff. What do you want to know? Go ahead.
Which would you rather do again? Stand up for drunk bikers or act opposite a puppet?
Okay, just say that slowly again. I got it.
Which would you rather do again? Stand up for drunk bikers or act opposite of a puppet?
Oh, act opposite a puppet. Puppet, yeah, and I've done that.
Yeah.
I have a film short, and I bet it's on YouTube. If you go on YouTube, just say Larry Hankin. There's about 30 or 40 of film shorts that I've made. Every time I got a really big money job, I made a film. So they're all shorts. And that one is called I don't know, but I do a show, a movie about two puppets. Somebody bought me or gave to me two wizard puppets. They're puppets that look like wizards, with the pointy hat
Yeah.
and okay, so but they're just alike. So I guess they're not a set at all. It's just they made 1,000 puppets, and here's two of them. They're all look alike. Okay, so I made a movie, and the movie is that I was a wizard. Oh, it was something about it had to do with uh, the science fiction, a big seller, a science fiction movie, a book, um, and there was a wizard in it. And here I had two wizards. So I was a wizard from the movie. I just had a white robe and a beard and long hair. I looked like a wizard at the time. So I played a wizard, a real living wizard. But I had two friends who, though they were puppets, I just said they were small wizards. And somebody worked them, and they came out and they were arguing. And I had to separate them. Say, hey guys, stop arguing. These are my two friends. These are the two wizards. I didn't know I had two friends. I only thought I had one wizard friend. And what they were arguing about was that one was a clone of the other. One made a clone of himself. And that's why there were two of them. And they were arguing as to which one was the original. And each claimed that they were the original and the other guy was the clone. And it was ridiculous enough. And they fought. I had the puppeteer, and they really fought. And then one killed the other. So no matter if he was a clone or the original, he now became the original. And he did magic because we even though it was just a film short, done in a backyard somewhere or in the woods or just um, we manufactured magic, with camera tricks and stuff like that. So yeah. Although I have performed for you was it specifically Hell's Angels that you mentioned,
No,
or just
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 drunk
drunk
bikers.
bikers.
like I have um, performed for bikers, Hell's Angels, as a matter of fact, and they love my stuff. They said because I did biker stuff. I had motorcycles back then, and I rode a motorcycle. I started small on a 145cc Honda, little red Honda motorcycle, and but I did biker humor in my set, and that's what they liked. It was in a coffee house, and it was a coffee house that bikers hung out at. So I was doing sets there for 20 minutes. So they told me that their friends, hey, this guy's doing biker humor. Nobody does that. So they came and they really liked me. So they bought me drinks afterwards. And they said, hey, they really wanted to be friends with me. And they said, well, you're doing biker humor. What you got a motorcycle? What are you riding? And I said, 145cc Honda, which, if you know anything about motorcycles, is really small and dinky.
Yeah.
So I said, 145cc Honda. And they go, really? That's a coincidence. I go, why? He says, we steal those all the time. If you ever need parts, give us a call. Well, wait a minute. I locked this up. How do you steal a Honda? Oh, fuck. We just lift it up and throw it on the truck, We don't bother to unlock anything. Take it. Boom. So, yeah, anytime you need parts, give us a call. So, yeah. And what was the other question? Another guy got another question?
Yeah, one more.
Yeah, I've got one more for you. Which role would you rather return to do? Annie or Home Alone?
Wow, man. See, these are hard questions. These are interesting questions.
Those are the only two films my 19-month-year-old has ever seen of yours. So,
So, well, they're both short, but the reason I loved Annie was because I got to hang out with John Huston, who directed that movie.
Mhm.
And we talked, and I made John Huston laugh, and that's no mean feat. And the other one was Home Alone, was Christopher Columbus, who's not as famous or as good a director as John Huston, but he is a really good director. Chris Columbus is a great comedy director. That's why that movie is so famous. So which would I rather? Well, it's got to be John Huston. It's not the part. It's the director that I would go with. John Huston is an amazing guy, man, and he can get along with anybody. I made him laugh, but I was young, and I was just doing my type of humor. I made him laugh. I even puzzled him once. I said, have you ever heard of a movie called it's been so long, I don't, but it was a movie, one of his first movies that he directed, that John Huston directed, which is, pretty. Oh, that bird, the falcon, something, the Maltese Falcon.
Mm.
That movie. I was walking. We were going to the same place, I guess, for lunch. So I was walking with him, and he doesn't talk. He'll talk to you, but he doesn't bring anything up. He's a quiet guy. So I'm walking with him, and we were silent for so long. I just said, hey, I got a question for you, John. He goes, yeah. Yes, Larry, what is it? I go, have you ever heard of a movie called the Maltese Falcon, which stopped him. He goes, yeah, because he had directed it, so he goes, yeah. I mean, what's coming next, Larry? He goes, yeah. I go, if you try to make that movie today, you couldn't make that movie. And then I just let it lay there. And he goes, and he kept walking, and he goes, what do you mean by that, Larry? And I go, well, the Maltese Falcon, except for maybe one or two shots, one or two exteriors, is all in rooms. B, it's just a lot of talk, a lot of speeches, and nobody wants to do a movie nowadays that's just full of rooms and speeches. And he goes, I think you're right, Larry. So that was my experience with John Huston. And it gave him some thought, he tried to figure out where the hell is this going. But he protected me. The casting director, I had very long hair, and I had to play a dog catcher. And he said, Larry, the interview wasn't an audition. He just wanted to talk to me. That's what he did to everybody. He just talks to you. He said, Larry, do you understand the part? Yeah, it's a dog catcher. He says, yeah, but you're going to have to get a haircut. I go, oh, that's okay, because I just wanted to work with John Huston. I didn't care what the hell he did. If he wanted to tattoo my face, that would be fine. I just wanted to, be with John Huston and get him to direct me. So he goes, all right. And then the casting director, who was an elderly lady, she was about 50 or so, 60, had gray hair. She goes up behind me and she pulls my hair up like this, my hair up, and she holds it up away from my face. That's what she was doing. And she pulls it up like a ponytail. She holds it up like that. And he goes, what are you doing to my actor? And when he said my actor, man, that really got me. My actor, his actor. You bet, John, me and you. So she said, well, I'm holding his hair up over his head so you could see what he'd look like if he had a haircut. And he said, I'm a director. I have an imagination. Please do not touch my actors. And I thought, this guy is cool, man. This guy, he's protecting me. Don't touch my actors. That's so cool. And then later on, I had stepped away or out of, he just sits in a director's chair and he talks to you. You stand in front of him and he talks to you. That's all. It's very simple. So I had moved away a little or walked away, or maybe he was signing something. So she got behind me, took me by the shoulders, and she positioned me back in front of him squarely. And he goes, now what are you doing? And she said, I'm just placing him so you could talk to him. He says, please do not touch my actors. I thought, this guy, I want to work with this guy. I don't care. It was so cool. And then he said, thank you very much, Larry. And then, months later, I guess about a month later, when it came time to film, he was sitting there watching his rushes, and I was brought up to him. Do you have time for me to tell you this story? Or
Yeah, we have.
Oh, okay. So so I was brought up to him by some casting director who said, oh yeah, I want you to. I was in costume and I had my hair cut and everything, but it was my first day on the set. So casting director or assistant casting director brought me to him and he was, behind me. I was behind him. So the casting director said, "Mr. Houston, I have Larry Hankin here, who's the dog catcher." And he turned around. No, but the casting director didn't say my name. He just said, "Mr. Houston, I have the person who's playing the dog catcher." And so he turned around and he goes, "Oh, hello, Larry." He remembered my name, after a month or so. I thought
Hmm.
that was really cool and very cool. I thought that was really cool, really cool. And I didn't want to wear the costume that they had for the dog catcher. Um, Generally, here's a rule: if you go in early enough, say for your costume to put on your costume because you're going to film that day. Um, if you go in early enough, say if you're due to shoot at 2 o'clock, if you go in at like 10 in the morning or 11 in the morning, you can actually go to the costume department and look at the costume they're giving you. And you can make adjustments. You can say, well, can I wear a different shirt than this?
Hmm.
And they'll generally say, sure. I mean, if it's too outrageous, no, but they'll give and take. So I went in very early, about 11 o'clock, to do just that. It's a practice that a lot of actors do, mainly stars, but anybody can do it if you know. So I went in early and I went to the costume department, not the set. I went to the costume department and I said, "I'm the dog catcher, and Annie, where's the costume department?" They said, "Go that way." And I went down and they said, "Where's the dog catcher's uniforms?" So you generally have a choice, or at least where Annie's stuff is. So I go there and I'm going through the thing looking, and I'm looking for, there's no dog catcher thing. There's nothing for dog. I'm looking, the character, and I hear this, "Hey, who are you? What are you doing here?" And it was an assistant costumer designer. Uh, okay, he's about 40, I guess, So he thought he had some sway. So I said, "Oh, I'm an actor. I got permission to be here." He says, "Well, who are you?" I said, "I'm Larry Hankin, and I'm the dog catcher." And then he just reaches behind him and he says, "This is your costume." And he hands me a jumpsuit, just a oneie, I guess, just and it looked like a piece of cardboard. It was cleaned, pressed, starched, and folded. So it was really stiff, and it was about the size of a laptop. It looked like a brown laptop. That's what no laptops were
I was
invented.
like, you knew that at the time, didn't you?
Yeah, but I did. So I did. When I told people about it, I said he handed me some looked like 3 inches or 2 inches of cardboard.
Hmm.
It looked like it was the color of cardboard. It looked like, but it was stiff. It was starch, really starched, man. So I looked at it and I go, I gave it back to him and I said, "I can't wear that." And he goes, "Why?" And I said, which is it's very almost rude, but it's not done, that actors question their costume. You have to wear the costume.
Hmm.
You may not like the part, but you got to wear the part. So I said, I can't wear that." He goes, "And why not?" And I go, "Because I'm a dog catcher in Lower Manhattan. And all I do is I pick up dogs. And this is the 1930s. This is Annie." I said, that's got to be filthy. I deal with dogs all day, curs, dogs that are stray, not kept dogs. In 1930, dogs are filthy."
Hmm.
He says, "Put it on." I said, "I'm not putting it on. That's the wrong costume. I'm a dog catcher." And he goes, "If you don't put this on, we are going to see Mr. Houston about this." I said, "I don't care." I mean, I really wasn't an actor. I was just a guy who was making money to pay rent. That was
Hmm.
it. But John Houston, anything. Okay. So he goes, "All right, come with me." He takes this piece of cardboard, this costume, and he marches me out there, and we're looking. Now it had just rained. It just rained, but it was over raining. It stopped raining, and it was now drying about 11, 12 o'clock now in the morning. And we're walking. So there's puddles here and there, but there was places to walk on the pavement. But there was a lot of greenery where we were shooting, or they were shooting outside on a kind of a mall, kind of university quad kind of
Mhm.
thing. And we're walking, and there's John, and he's still watching his brushes. He comes and he goes, because Mr. Houston, we have the dog catcher here, and he turns around and he says, "Oh, hello, Larry. Hello, Paul. Or what is it now?" And he says, "This actor will not put on this costume." And he shows him this. Oh, and he's holding it like a tray. He's got the costume there. It's thick. It doesn't bend. He says, this, and he will not put on his dog catcher's uniform. And he turns to me and he says, "Larry, is this true? You won't put on the costume?" And I go, "Yeah." "And why is that, Larry?" And I go, "Well, I'm a dog catcher, and it's 1930 and 1937 or so, and I'm catching dogs. It's got to be filthy, and it's all starched and stiff and clean, and it's not right." And therefore you won't put on the costume. Right, right, yeah. And I'm almost pleading my case to him.
Mhm.
And he says, "Paul, give me the costume." So Paul hands him this platter. And John Huston gets up. He's carrying it like this. And he gets up out of his directing chair, away from his video, and he starts walking away from us. And he's walking away. And I know it's really weird that I noticed this, but I noticed he had loafers on, very expensive Italian loafers. Because I thought, wow, that must be like at least a minimum of $100 just right there.
Mhm.
Just, but that's what my thought was. And he's walking away, and all of a sudden I see him walk off into the grass, into a puddle, this huge puddle in the middle of this grass. And he walks into it with his shoes, with his expensive loafers. And I'm going, holy cow. He's walking in, and he walks,
Disposable income, man.
what?
Disposable income must be
Yeah,
great.
yeah. And the water is about that thick. So my next thought is, oh my God, his socks are getting wet. And he's not copying to it. He's just like he's walking on cement, and he's just walking through this puddle. It's a big puddle, man. It's about as big as a room. Well, half a room, half a
Mhm.
room. And he's walking into the middle of it. And as he's walking into the middle of this puddle, he's ripping apart. Well, it starts. I mean, he's not ripping the material. But you could hear it going as the
Mhm.
starch is letting go. And he's opening the costume. And he's walking in this puddle, and then he stops in the middle of the puddle, and he goes, and then he and he whips it out like to get it all straightened out, and then he drops it in the puddle, and he walks all over it, sloshing in the puddle, and he's sinking it, making sure that it's totally submerged. And he steps on it, and he reaches in with these two fingers, and he picks it up. It's dripping wet. And he marches, he walks. He's not copying to the fact that his shoes and socks are wet, very expensive shoes. And he walks back to us, and it's dripping wet. And he says, "Paul," and he hands it to Paul. He says, "Take this." Paul takes it, and he's holding it like this, and he doesn't know what's going on, and neither do I. And he says, "Paul, I want you to take this, dry this out in the dryer. They have dryers there. Dry this out and put it on this actor. Thank you very much, Larry. Thank you very much, Paul." That, Paul walks back there. He throws it in the dryer. He says it's going to take 15 minutes. I wait, put it on. It's filthy. It's creased. It's awful. I walk back. John Huston goes, exactly. All right, get in the truck because I'm driving and I do the scene. I mean, that's a director, man. Fucking, you can't get better than that. Okay, that's my story. It's in the book. It's in the book. That story's in the book.
Well,
Okay,
I mean,
rock on.
thank you so much. This was awesome. And I feel like you have so many awesome stories. I feel like every 4 months we need to have you back
Yeah,
on you need to be
cool. I love
reoccurring.
it. I love it. I enjoy it. All I need about an hour because my stories are kind of long. Sometimes when we do a half-hour show, I get closed in. But yeah,
Uh,
give me.
I mean, this
Cool.
was about 2 hours that we just went,
Oh my
so
god! Holy cow! I'm sorry,
no,
man.
that's
You're
we
fine.
always we most people want it to be an hour max, and we're
Oh,
much better on long form. We like to hear you talk about whatever. Like it's all we
oh,
go with
cool.
what you
That's
want to
great,
do.
man.
So
You guys are great.
if you're like, yeah, let's go for 5 hours, that might be pushing
No,
it,
I mean,
but that
if you're interested in the stories you got like that, those are great questions you ask. So as long as there's something for me to bounce off of or remind me of something, that's great, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks so much for watching that episode, guys.
It was better structured than the intro. That's for fucking sure.
Make sure you go to our website, youhatetoseeit.net, where we have links to everything, including our Patreon, or the full unedited video version of that episode is going to be out. Including all extra conversations, because I have Zoom set to start recording the second someone fucking goes in there.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that for us.
Yeah.
That always goes well, because we totally have people there on time, and right when we start the super
Unfortunately, we're talking about you, but you won't be here for this.
Also, I feel like for this outro, since Nick wasn't here for the fucking recording, Nick should have just been playing dead.
I'd like to point out that Adam scheduled this 30 minutes before I made an appointment, so it is Adam's fault for not knowing my schedule.
You can
predictably.
reschedule appointments. We can't reschedule Larry motherfucking Hankin. Do you think you'd be okay with me saying that? We'll ask him during the interview.
Alright, just do this, yeah.
Hey Larry, you okay with me referring to you as Larry motherfucking Hankin?
I don't like how you're spitting in my sunflower seed cup.
Sorry.
I know
Drink it later?
I know that it makes no
Do
sense.
the outro! This is an outro. We don't need this conversation right now.
Bye.